Welcome to Filling You In, a dental podcast with A Squared, where dentist entrepreneurs and spouses, Dr. Anushka Gaglani and Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj, welcome industry experts and innovators to explore trends in business practices, patient care, career development, and what it takes to be successful in dentistry.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Filling You In. I am Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj.
And I'm Dr. Anushka Gaglani, collectively known as A Squared. Action, will to win, bring the fire, close the gap. You might expect to hear these motivating words coming from a coach during a big game, but you will also hear them in the morning staff meetings at Vision Dental Partners, an emerging dental group with 8 locations in Indiana and South Carolina.
Our guest today, Dr. Brad Hughes, is the founder and CEO of Vision Dental Partners and has centered his growing business on those concepts. We're going to explore what's behind them, how they play out in day-to-day operations, and learn about Brad's vision for Vision Dental Partners on today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brad.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. I am like super pumped. I follow everything you guys do on LinkedIn, and I know we connect a lot on there. And so I've been looking forward to this. This will be amazing.
Yeah, we
Likewise.
look forward to it as well. So, Brad, we'd like to start with learning more about your background and what got you interested in dentistry. I understand your father and grandfather were both dentists, so maybe it was a foregone conclusion that you would follow in their footsteps. But did you consider any other career paths?
For like 2 days, I think it was like it was probably my sophomore year at Indiana University. I think there was about a 48-hour stretch where I was like, maybe like really high level corporate attorney sounds really badass. And then that like faded away, and I'm like, let's just keep going down the same path. But there was like a 2-day window. I'm pretty sure it was like first semester sophomore year, so for about 48 hours, I feel like it was like a Saturday, Sunday. I probably watched some movie on like a Thursday night or something that was like really cool, like some big corporate attorney thing. And I'm like, that looks awesome, and then of course, like Suits, the TV show came on whenever that was, I was like, did I screw up? I was like, that looks sweet. But no, it's, and I think it really was ingrained in me early. Like, it wasn't even the dental side. Like, I mean, anybody who's ever seen anything I've ever put out, like dentistry is not to me about what we do here with our hands. It's like what we do with our mouths and our ears. Right. And I think that was really ingrained in me pretty early on. My dad was such a big part of the community that I grew up in. Everywhere we went, on Friday nights to dinner at Pizza Hut, to my Little League games, to my basketball games, just everybody knew who he was. He was such a big part of the community. And I loved the relationships that he was able to build. And I think that was the biggest thing that really drew me to what we do. And, it's funny too, because you mentioned the words like foregone conclusion, and we were like driving me down to Bloomington for my freshman year in college, and my dad was literally asking me like, so what are you majoring in? Like, they had no idea, right? So it wasn't this like, you've got to do this. It was just, this is what I'm doing. I didn't feel the need to really tell the world. It was just, hell, I apparently hadn't even told my parents. So it really came down to, I was doing it because I wanted to do it. And it was really because I'm like, at some point, I want to have that type of impact and that type of influence on a community and on people just like he had. And that was really, I probably learned more. I was probably more influenced by him from like 6 to 16 than I was even when we worked in the same practice when I was 27 and 28 years old.
No, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things that we keep in mind is we are not in the teeth business, we're in the people business. So totally relate to that.
Absolutely. Brad, tell us a little bit more about, so how did you get started? Did you start working at your dad's practice? Did you go work somewhere else? And then how did you make that transition from being an associate dentist, or I don't know if you started as an owner dentist right away? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. Like most of my stories, they started out on a golf course. So, it was my junior year of dental school, and, my dad and I are like hacking around probably. I feel like we were playing pretty well that day, honestly. Like, it was, I think we were at a golf course like called Plum Creek or something like that on the north side of Indy. And, we get to like 14, 15, and, he's like kind of passive aggressive, like, so, like, what do you want to do after dental school? I'm like, what do you, I don't know, why, and he's like, well, we're ready for you up here in Leo and, in the suburbs of Fort Wayne, if that's what you want to do. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So, joined that practice right out of school, really early on. Like, I was probably 2 or 3 weeks in. There's always been some entrepreneurial things that I've done. Like, I feel like there's just always been those tendencies that were there. And I think it was probably 2 or 3 weeks in. I'm like, this is a great practice. There's just this and it's that, and it's these little things here and there that we can do just from a business standpoint to kind of get things churning. And it was a great practice. He really had no desire at that point to kind of spearhead those things and take them on. I mean, by the time I stepped foot on my first day, I think he had like one toe out the door, and by the end of the first week, he had about 1 foot out the door. Yeah, so it really kind of became my show to kind of go do and learn and probably get punched in the face and fail a lot in those first 6 months to 12 months to 24 months. And went from there. And, he left to move to South Carolina a year. We were probably 18 to 24 months after I was out of school, and I had acquired the practice from him. And he took off, and he told me, like, on literally probably day 3, you will spread your wings bigger and better when I'm not here. So, and I'm like, but he wasn't wrong.
That's awesome. That's a really cool story.
100%. So, starting from that, what sparked your journey to build Vision Dental Partners, and where does your entrepreneurial drive come from?
I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. It's a good. I don't know. It's not like I've got all these family members. There's something just innately that I was attracted to. I don't know, but it is just at the core of everything that I've ever done. And everything has always just been arbitrage. Everything has always been just that, right? Like, I'm just fascinated by, that piece of things. So the entrepreneurial spirit's always been really great with me. It's driven everything that I do. But, once I kind of started to figure out that we were kind of doing some things in that first practice, like, once I felt like, it was probably 2012, 2013, 2014, I'm like, maybe we weren't growing as fast as I thought. Some of it was still like, yeah, I'm a good dentist, whatever that means. But we were still kind of, we weren't going as fast as I wanted to. And maybe that's because I want to go 100 miles an hour at all times. And maybe we were only going at 78 miles an hour. Maybe that wasn't good enough, whatever. But to me, it came down to just mindset. And honestly, and I give big props to Jay Geyer and Scheduling Institute. Started working with them in 2013, and really in a true one-on-one setting, Jay, because I really respond to this in just a very candorous, very direct, very personal way. Just said, the mindset's got to change about some things, and that really got me going in the right direction. More of an abundance mindset, less apologizing for having just incredible drive. Just the authenticity piece needs to come out. You just need to go be you. And there were a whole another 48 different things, but I think those were the big ones. And so that I really set out and I said, okay, when we triple this practice, I'm going to go acquire a second practice. So, like, I had to have that goal, and I'm like, I'm not doing that until we've achieved this. And that took about 5-ish years. It was 2013, 2014. I acquired my second practice in 2019.
Nice. Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You said something about authenticity. We're big fans of your content, and we've been following your content. And overarchingly, I can vouch that your authenticity really comes through, man. And it's driving just so much value. I do want to dig in a little bit more about so you were doing the Scheduling Institute thing. You're one practice in. You're like, okay, let me go get the second practice. Tell us how Vision Dental Partners came to be. from there?
Yeah. 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 So, you know, I knew pretty early on, like the hard piece of growing a group is that at some point you've got to grow a management team, right? Like like so many get to like 2 or 3 practices and they're like, we're a group, we're killing it. You're like, you are, but you're running the entire show. You're still doing all the recruiting. You're still doing all the things. And like, that's the part where it starts to get really hard and expensive and yada, yada, yada with that 4, 5, 6 practices. Cause now you've got to build that team out. And, um, you know, to like really dive into like where does the Vision Dental Partners piece come from? So at in 2019, even with just 2 practices, I just said, look, like I've got now she's like director of operations. We called her regional manager at the time, whatever. Like some of these titles get a little, everybody's got a damn title anymore, but whatever. It's, so we said, I need a way to like, we need to set this up so we have a management team so that money can kind of flow up to here. Like we'll take a little bit of money. So you're not just getting paid by one practice and the other practice is not paying you and all these things, like the things that you guys got to do early on, and, so I just sat there and for like 3 days, I'm like, I need to name this thing something, I'm like, what do I want to do? Like, I'm like, like you guys have a really cool reason for Arrow, right? Like I love, like it means something. It means something to you guys, right? And I love that and I appreciate it. So for me, I'm like, I love aviation and my most favorite, like I became a private pilot in 2012, 2013, was flying a ton, love it, love it, love it. And my favorite airplane that I ever fell in love with was a Vision jet, a Cirrus Vision jet. And
One of our favorite jets too, by the way.
That's cool.
love it, and like the first time I flew it, like I was just in love with this thing, and I'm like, well, I'm obsessed with that journey they went through from like 06 to 2016 to like get that thing certified, because as you guys know, everybody in the aviation world told them not gonna happen. This thing will never fly. It's going to fail just like that other jet did. You're never going to get this thing off the ground. Yeah, it's cool that you have 2 of them up there flying around, testing and doing this, but this thing's never going to make it to mass production. Then nobody's going to buy it. It's 2 weeks. Next thing you know, it's the second most delivered private jet in the world.
Right.
The journey those guys went on for a decade, like they had to be aligned from a core value standpoint, from a vision standpoint, they literally lost like basically all their money. I mean, Cirrus they were just pumping everything they had into it. And I love the journey. It's about the plane, but it's more just about the alignment and like the resilience and the grit to get to where they wanted to go, to just kick ass now. And I'm just obsessed with it. So I'm like, in honor of that, I'm just going to name this company after that.
That's really cool.
That's a very cool story. Thanks for explaining that. I was wondering where that came from, but that took a different turn than what I thought it was going to be. So that's really
everybody
cool.
thinks everybody thinks I'm way smarter than I am. They're like, oh, it probably means something about like the vision of your company. I'm like, nah, it has nothing to do with that. They're like, oh, and, yes, what are you talking about? No, it has to do with airplanes. Like, obviously.
That's really cool. Awesome.
So what do you think differentiates Vision Dental Partners from other players in the space?
Yeah, I think the honest to God answer is exactly what you guys were saying earlier. Like there's just going to be, and authenticity gets thrown around a little bit like cake at a fat camp too. But I think that there's a real element to what we're doing. Meaning, I want a company based on, I don't want us to be soft. I want a real company based on self-awareness and accountability. There's a bar that I feel like I've set. There's an expectation that I feel like I've set. And we expect that bar. I'm not saying we're expecting above that. You don't have to go above that. The players that go above that, they will be promoted, rewarded, all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't need a lot of people down here. There's a bar. We need to have that set. And I think, and we talk about it, and we're open about that, and we're real around that. So when I say real, it means real conversations, real feedback, real candor. an expectation of real accountability. And that's from everybody. I expect the same for my team members to me. I've said this before. When I have doctors that come to my practice in South Carolina to spend some time with me, through mentoring and coaching, I expect the same thing from them. Give me feedback.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about that exam? Grade me. And then initially they kind of go, I'm a little afraid to do that. I'm like, come on. Like, there are parts, like I immediately, the moment I said what I said, I wish I had taken it back. What should I have not said? I would give myself an A- for that exam. Tell me why. We just start to go down that path. And I think it's important because if I'm going to give them feedback, I think they deserve to be able to give me feedback as well.
Sure.
And I think that's a really good way for them to learn. And then they can go back. And I think when they can give me feedback, they're much more likely to be able to give their assistants, their front desk, their hygienists. I think that's a great way to really build up their confidence and grow their leadership capabilities. But, the differentiator, and I get a little, sometimes maybe I sound cynical, but like we're not redefining anything. We're not changing the landscape of dentistry. We're not, we're all kind of doing the same things. You guys are doing more full arch stuff than what we're doing. But at the end of the day, it's just a people game.
Mm-hmm.
And I just choose in our company to say that, we want to attract the people who are very like-minded to us, that are very, that want to go kick ass around self-awareness and accountability and know that the sky is the limit. The only one's ever going to hold them back is them. But then we also want to attract loyalty as well. And I think
Sure.
I don't want to handcuff people to have this like pseudo culture, pseudo loyalty around money. We all lose people sometimes because they can make $3 more an hour down the street, and that's fine. I'm not talking about those 30%. I'm talking about the other 70%. I think attracting loyalty is something I'm obsessed with, and that's through the coaching, that's through mentoring, that's through going through things that aren't always easy together and coming out on the other side and being closer because of it. And that's sometimes just helping people get over their self-limiting thoughts. That's anything. And then some, right? I mean, there's 10 other avenues we could go down with that, but I think I'm obsessed with the idea of attracting loyalty as well. And it's just not always based on money.
You're absolutely right. I can't tell you how many times we've had to have tough conversations with people. People say they want that, right? But like, how many people can actually stomach that and actually come out on the other side better? And those are the people that are really growing in the company. And it takes a certain person with values to be able to handle that, right? Speaking of values, let's talk about core values a little bit. You have some really cool core values. Let's talk about the role that it plays in the success of your business and why you chose to focus on action, will to win, bring the fire, close the gap.
I mean, they're kind of everything, right? Like it's like 2:30. Do you guys have till 5? It's I mean, they're just, I know that sounds macro, that sounds cliche, but they're everything, right? Every 90 days that we do reviews, we do them very heavily around those 4 core values. So we focused on those because they tell a story. They tell a story of the people that we want to work with, the people we feel like we are, the way we want our culture and the story about our company to be told. And I'm not like, brand is sort of like what people think of who you are and what you do and all these things. But I think, if somebody said, what is Vision Dog? Like, just action. They do things. They're getting things done. I'm like, great. That's like, I'm good. I can die. We've made it. But also like, like will to win. Like, who wants to go and show up in a morning huddle with the people who are like okay with mediocrity? They're complacent. Like my LinkedIn post today was like, this doctor that we've got a signed LOI on now, like literally when I left the first meeting with him, the guy had tears in his eyes because he's like, I'm tired of being where I'm at. I've done the same number 3, 4, 5 years in a row. Help me. And like, we just sat there, I talked to him for 2 hours. I leave. He's like, and I'm like, these are my
Yeah.
That's
people.
great.
That's
Yeah.
somebody who has like flipped the switch, that will to win, like finally kicked in because he's like, I'm just complacent. I'm doing the same thing. I was happy with that money, right? But it's not about that. And like when somebody can realize that, whoa, like magic happens. And so Bring the Fire, same thing. I mean, shoot, you just, I just think about, there's not a game that Kobe played where there wasn't a point in that game where he wasn't just fired up about something, right? Like just
Right.
energy, passion, and like people follow that.
Right.
Close the Gap, like that's the most objective of them probably. Like you've got a goal, how are you going to get there? What's A, B, C that's going to lead you to D? And you guys know this. How often do people come to you and they're like, well, I want to do this in life. And you're like, okay, well, that's a little ways down the road. You got to do this first, then that, then that, then that, and then eventually you'll get here. It's like Peyton Manning wasn't one of the greatest regular season quarterbacks of all time in year one.
Right.
In fact, he threw like a shit ton of interceptions in year one. Tom Brady won 7 Super Bowls, but he didn't win 7 in 1 year. It's going to take some time. Like you just step by step. So like, what are you going to do to close that gap? And so I think they just paint the picture. They really tell the story. Like when we sat down and we argued about these, literally, we argued about them for probably 5 or 6 hours until we really narrowed the stories down to the story that we're like, these are the people that we want to work with and recruit and do this day in and day out for decades with.
I absolutely love that. I think, to us too, core values are so important. And I really like what you said about it builds a story of who you are as a company and who your people are. That's awesome. So just kind of continuing on that, what do those values look like in action on a good day?
I think it starts at, let's go into the hypothetical of like most of my days start at 7, but most of our practices are open at 8 o'clock. Like it starts at 7:40 in the morning huddle. Like literally, I think you mentioned that was like, it's the way the day starts. There has to be like energy can go one of two ways. Energy in a morning huddle, Bring the Fire is you either got energy suckers or you've got energy bringers. And, if your day starts with a bunch of people who just plug into you and just suck that energy out of you, like your day, like I don't care how good you are at 8:05, you're like, shit, like is this
Yeah.
So
is your
true.
mindset now on a 90% case acceptance? Is your mindset now on being relational, not transactional? Is your mindset on just all the things that are going to come at you that day? I don't think it gets you started off to a great start, so you've got to start those things at 7:40, 7:42 every day, and close the gap is what did we do yesterday? What did we learn from that? And maybe here's where we're at for the month. What do we have to do to get to where we're trying to get to from a KPI standpoint? What is that from me? What is that from you? What is that from you? And action. I mean, I probably say that word 40,000 times a day. It's just like, I can't do it for you. Like, you just got to go do things.
Do the damn thing, right?
Just do the damn thing. That's it. And I don't, like, nobody cares if you screw some things up. Just do the damn thing.
Yeah.
You're right.
I think that's just so important.
Love
So I think a good day, it starts at 7:40. The days where it doesn't start at 7:40 become the bad days. They become the days that at 2 o'clock, you're like,
Yep.
how much longer am I
Yeah.
doing this today?
Right.
And I just feel when everybody's bringing that energy and everybody's bringing the fire and when you have people with a will to win, it doesn't matter what happened yesterday and it doesn't matter how good the year's been or it doesn't matter how bad the month's been, you're just going at it. And that's how we all win.
Absolutely spot on. Love those answers. Brad, you're a clinician and you're the CEO at Vision. We know the challenges of being providers while running a business. I think we've talked about this too. Talk about how you approach some of those challenges, and is there a formula that works for you?
There's been a formula that worked really bad, which was like, don't have good system. I mean, don't have good calendar. And it's a work. I mean, you guys know this, even though you're doing less clinic, like you still know you got to run a good calendar, or it's just like so many
Hmm.
balls in the air and it just becomes a mess. I think sometimes people get confused because they'll watch like a day in the life video and they're like, you're going to burn out. And that's so crazy that you're doing that. Like, I can't believe that you work that hard, whatever, right? Like, I'm like, what, really? Like, this is like, you should actually learn from it. Like, it's such an efficient day that
Mm.
you'd be blown away how much I can get done in 8 hours that would probably take you 14 because I've just
Mm.
had to do it. And
14
like
days, maybe.
14 days, yeah. And I say that like with pure love, and I say it
I
with,
know.
but I'm like, I've just had to
Yeah.
get to the point where I can become incredibly efficient. And my team, whether it's, my controller, my director of operations, my HR director, my business development, it doesn't matter. Like my team knows that. They bring me things that help me become very efficient. Like we can have 3-minute meetings that would normally take 15 to 20 for other people because it's just
Yeah.
bam, 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 or a 10-minute meeting that would normally be 30. And, after 17 and a half years of doing this, I can be very focused on that. Take that hat off, put the other hat off, or other hat on, go in, prep 2 crowns. I'm at like, I mean, after you've prepped 34,000 crowns, like there's a point where, number one, you're pretty quick at it, pretty good at it. It's
Yeah.
not rocket science. And the patient was still incredibly relational, as evidenced by the fact that like they keep coming back and back and back and back and back, by the way. And
Mhm.
so efficiency and calendar, I mean, I think, for example, again, I go back to like, well, you're doing too many things. Well, at the beginning of this week, I was in Indiana all week.
Mhm.
My day started at 7 o'clock. I had one day that ended at 9:30 after a 4-hour amazing conversation with one of our soon to be partner doctors. And, now I'm spending the weekend in Miami with my family, and that's just the way it is. So I was away from them for 3.5 full days, and now we spend the weekend here. And, it's just, I don't judge myself. I know it needs to be done. I don't really give a shit if anybody else wants to judge what I do. I'm not judging them. I don't care what they want to do or not do or whatever. It's totally good. I think balance is completely up to the individual. I think
Mhm.
what you guys are doing is awesome, because I think there's a point where I'm going to have to get to the point where you guys have backed away from the clinical and you're more focused on the other stuff, which I think is amazing. And I will have to get to that point. There's no question. But for now, I've just created a really efficient calendar
Yeah.
that my team is fully on board with, my family is fully on board with, and honestly, I make it work.
Yeah. Well, there's two really good points you brought up. One is, the efficiency, right? I think the concept of Parkinson's law, which is that tasks will expand the time you give them. So it sounds like you've mastered that. And then as far as balance, there are seasons of balance, right? Sometimes life is going to be unbalanced. It's going to be more on the work side, and sometimes it's more on the family side. It just is
I
what it is. So,
and I so agree with that. It's and that can change, right? Like, and that's one thing
yeah.
that I'm really obsessed with our team members, is that they have seasons of life too. Like what they really prioritized
Mhm.
4 years ago might not be it now, and I need to do a better job of knowing where they're at now. And I think sometimes I'm not as good at that, and I need to get better at that. But I think COVID in those years, because the focus was so far in a different direction, like a weird direction, um, I think I got really soft,
Mm.
very soft. I don't like any of the version of me that was there in 2020, 2021. I don't like it. I need the go 100 miles an hour version of me. I think it's the most efficient, the most effective, the best leader, the best for my
True.
company, the best for the people that are around me, and the best for my family. I think that version, when it was like we all had to kind of slow down and we had to focus on these other things, I think it was a very poor version of me. And
Mhm.
I like the figure it out and be efficient. I think lean and efficient has always been what we've focused on, whether I had one practice or just today.
Absolutely. And for what it's worth too, who gives a crap, to your point about what people say about how you run your business, right? Like everything is made up anyway. It came from
Yeah,
somebody else's thoughts in this world, right? And
100%.
no one person's in charge. And I think sometimes we wear it as a badge of honor when we get out of the chair, as though it should be some big badge of honor, right? It doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's about the income you make and are you happy and fulfilled with your life. So I absolutely agree with you on that.
That's the
Um,
kicker. Yep,
yeah.
100%.
How do you define success for Vision Dental Partners now? And what does success look like 10 years from now for you, Brad?
Ooh. I think the definition of success for us at this point is the attraction of like-mindedness. It sounds so easy and so cliche, but it's the reason that I feel like I have to be so me, because the fakeness that exists out there is not going to attract the right people. And I do not want to attract. I want to attract and attract. I'm like we talked about earlier. I want to attract like-minded, core value fits, all these things, and I will help. Our company will help drive a lot of professional, personal, and financial success for people. But I also want to, like, the attraction of loyalty is something that I am so obsessed with right now, and just what that means in a space that recruiting and retention are hard and it's become so much about money. Attracting loyalty. If I can sit here 10 years from now and say I'm 80% better at it than I was a decade ago, I think we will have gone further than my wildest dreams.
So what we want to jump into a quick lightning round with you, Brad.
Love it.
It's okay. I'm going to shoot my first question here. What was your last impulse buy?
I bought 2 hooded Vision Jet sweatshirts yesterday that are probably going to arrive at our house today, because of course I paid $30 to have them overnighted, even though we weren't going to be in South Carolina. So but when I want something, I want it, I'm like, I want it waiting for me when I get home. So yeah, I spent I don't know, some stupid amount on these things, but they were so awesome. I can't wait to get home and get them.
You weren't kidding about being a fan of Vision.
No,
so
I'm so freaking into it.
What are the least likely 3 words someone would use to describe you?
Quiet, slow, unmotivated.
Sounds about right. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh man, I am the worst singer. Like literally, I am so bad at so many things. Like there are only a small subset of things I'm really good at. Singing is just so not one of them. I would say that this is this is lightning round. I'm giving you terrible lightning answers. I am such a product of Indiana and Indiana University and Indiana basketball. Like growing up, Bobby Knight was my religion. He was my pedestal guy. Like I literally the leader that I am today is so based on like the 8-year-old boy watching Bobby Knight just like lead his basketball program. I would say, I kid you not, it would be like my karaoke song would be play the IU fight song, and I will just sit up there and just do that with like a tear in my eye.
Well, that sounds like a good loyalty. Speaking of loyalty,
Yeah, I'm obsessed. Right. Yes,
yeah.
I'm a loyal human being.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Brad, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being with us today.
No, you guys, I genuinely appreciate the heck out of what you guys do for the world of dentistry and the space of dentistry and the group space, and I follow everything you guys do. We'll do our best to keep up with you. I appreciate you guys and love you guys. So appreciate you having me on.
You guys are
better.
crushing it. No,
Yeah.
thank you. I'm Dr. Abhishek Nagaraj.
And I'm Dr. Anushka Gaglani. Thanks for checking out today's show, and we hope you can join us again next time.
Thanks for watching this episode of Filling You In, where we uncover the insights, trends, and stories shaping the dental industry. If you like this podcast, please share it on your social channels and visit Aereo Dental Group on LinkedIn or on Instagram at Aereo Dental Group. You can also subscribe to the series and check out all of our episodes on this YouTube channel or at aerodental.com/podcast. Until next time, stay curious, stay inspired, and let's keep elevating the dental field together.